Good evening. Welcome back to Talkback Corner. Let's say you receive a text from your section's music director asking you to play the next youth service. You take a look at the song lineup, take a look at the musicians and singers, and you've never played with these people before in your life. What do you do? How do you prepare? What should you expect? Should you be worried? Excited? Find out all that and more on today's Talkback Corner. You're listening to Talkback Corner, a podcast by church musicians for church musicians, giving you an inside look into our story and our passion for music. Our goal is to inspire musicians not to just play an instrument, but worship with that instrument and use their talents to further the kingdom of God. And we're back, episode 5.
Number 5.
Everyone, welcome to Talkback Corner. I am Matt.
And I'm Cody.
And we are so happy you could join us. It is 11 p.m. on a Thursday night. Cody doesn't have to work tomorrow. I do, but...
I actually do. I didn't think I did, but I actually do. It's optional, so I can go in there when I want and leave when I want.
Okay, so you don't have to get there early or nothing.
No.
Well, that's cool. So
Our little intro sounds like VeggieTales. I'm Bob, and I'm Larry. So, Reverend Scroggins got kicked off the podcast. I'm just kidding. We sent him to Panama to do some research for the podcast.
I think 50% of that statement was true.
He's in Panama.
He's in Panama.
He's not here.
Not doing what most people do in Panama, though, I'm sure.
Yeah. And it's not Panama Beach. It's Panama, where the canal's at and all. So,
but maybe we can have him back next week, just depending. I've enjoyed having him on the podcast.
We'll let our people get with his people. Line that one up.
So to reiterate our opening statement, let's say the music director for your section, we'll use sectional youth rallies for sake of argument. Your music director calls, texts, and says, hey, I want to put you on schedule for the next youth service, right? And you're like, okay, great, would love to. Maybe, you've played one or two before where you knew everybody, but you look at the lineup and you have no idea who these musicians are, or you've just heard of them, never played with them, never sung with any of these singers. What do? It can be a point of worry. It has been for me, for sure.
And if you haven't experienced it, you will.
You will, yes.
If you take this seriously and you actually do it to become good at it, you're going to run into that.
Yeah.
One thing you don't have to worry about as much, but you still need to be prepared for, is you don't know what equipment will be at the church that you're going to play at.
Right.
Wherever the service is being held. So I've shown up to services before, and maybe the church didn't have a drummer, but they had a set of drums.
I know where this is going.
They've been very rough.
Yeah. Or haven't been touched in a minute, especially
haven't
haven't
been
been tuned in a minute.
Yeah. And, I mean, if you don't have a drummer, why spend the money on a good drum set?
I get it.
And it's also a touchy subject because you don't want to show up with your drum set. So I mentioned this about playing drums. You can't just walk into somewhere with your drum set. If you play guitar, you can go anywhere you want pretty much, as long as you got room to store the case for the guitar or just the guitar. With a drum set, you've got to have a whole operation.
Yeah.
And
you
there's
can't
a
just
whole
walk in carrying it on your back and you're good to go.
Yeah. There's a whole breakdown, setup, getting everything the same.
Where do you put it?
Exactly. If that church isn't set up to have a drummer, where do you put everything? Which with a guitar or a bass, they may not have a guitar or a bass, so they may be short on an amp or both amps or whatever. So one neat thing that's kind of off topic but not, when my brother was learning the bass, I want to say he started out looking for a left-handed bass, or started looking at
Really? Why?
or started looking at playing upside down because he's left-handed.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay.
And so we sought counsel. I didn't. I could care less. My parents sought counsel, and somebody told him, well, at this stage, he needs to learn to play a right-handed bass the right way.
Right.
Because you don't know how, I mean, most left-handed bass players play right-handed bass.
Right.
You know.
To be fair, most left-handed drummers will play a right-handed drum set.
Right. And
So-
it's yes, they make a left-handed bass, they make a left-handed guitar, but you may not be able to take your, let's say your
What about left-handed piano?
organization calls and says, hey, we want you to play this event.
Yeah.
We want you to go to Africa and be part of this whatever deal. And you can't take your own equipment. You have to use whatever is in the established church there. You may be a right-handed bass player and show up and there's a left-handed bass.
left-handed bass.
Chances are there's a right-handed bass.
Right.
Anywhere you go. And that's why they were saying to learn right-handed bass. A lot of churches don't like you going in there and throwing, trust me, I have felt the stares and why are you setting up your drums in our church?
Yeah.
And it's almost like an insult, but at the same time, you're not dissing their drum set. You're
Right.
just wanting to provide the best quality experience for everybody.
Right.
You know?
Right. On that funny note, we used to, my dad and I travel with a local group and play Southern Gospel, and you would play Southern Gospel for anybody, Baptist church, Methodist church,
Yeah.
Church of Christ. Like you would go anywhere if they'd ask you to, right? That more often than not, they would not have a drum set. And the looks you get from people when you're bringing one in, it could be interesting.
Church
We've
of Christ.
actually had people say, "Can you turn that down?" No, because they're acoustic drums.
Church of Christ probably doesn't have anything, though.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
But they'll listen
You
to
should
country
hear them
music.
sing congregationals, though.
Oh, I have.
Like
I've been
as
to a
a church,
service.
it's incredible.
Yeah, that's beautiful. But they can listen to country music and all that. Anyways, we won't get off. We got to stick to our topic. We're going to try not to get off on a bunch of rabbit trails. I almost said
trails are
rabbit
fun.
tails.
So in this is especially, you don't know who you're going to play with. Do your research. Where's the service going to be at? What equipment do they have? What do you need to bring? There's no dumb question when it would come to this.
Yeah,
area.
it's better. The old saying, it's better to have it not need it than need it not have it.
Right.
And it doesn't hurt to ask questions
Absolutely.
to whoever the church you're going to. Hey, do y'all have a certain way y'all like to hook into things? Do y'all have, if I brought a Helix, would I be able to plug that in and go, or do I need to bring amp? What do I need?
Yeah.
That would be your preparation as far as your instruments,
Right.
preparing your instrument to go. And if you play something like a saxophone or a trumpet,
More power to you.
more power to you, but chances are a lot of places aren't going to be set up to plug your saxophone in and go. So,
You'll plug your acoustic electric saxophone in.
right.
Well, use myself as an example. The last youth rally I played, which I over ask questions. I ask questions all the time. Was what's their keyboard setup look like? What model is it so that I can USB MIDI? Where is it located on the stage? Is there an in-ear setup? There's no dumb question to ask.
Yep.
You need to know what you're walking into.
Yep.
And I think that the music director would especially, they would like that.
Yeah, if they were going somewhere, chances are they would.
That's one less.
Unless you're out in the middle of nowhere, in a cornfield, there's a church.
That's one less headache for them when you show up, if you're practicing there or even service night, that they don't have to worry about your side of it. You've asked questions, you've prepared.
Here's another one I've run into. Same scenario, but they say we're only going to be able to have one practice the night before or the week of.
Or an hour before church.
Or an hour before church. And you have... So, to set the whole premise of this, everybody has their own style of playing.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody has their own rut that they get into. They have their own, I call it pacifier, their own. The thing, to me, my hi-hat is my pacifier. I can't let it go. And so
The way you play it.
the way I
the
play
way you
it
play
is
it.
my pacifier. So everybody plays different.
Yeah.
And to me, the hi-hat deal came from starting to do the newer songs where there was a lot of synth or, fill-in stuff in the background that we didn't have. And so if I didn't loosen that hi-hat up enough and we had a piano, a bass, and a drum set, there was a lot of dead space.
Right.
And
There's
so
gaps.
I started playing with my hi-hat more open.
Yeah.
And so that's where that came from. And because of that, I play with that hi-hat open most of the time.
Yeah.
Not fully open, but somebody might be used to a closed hi-hat sound. And that'll throw you off as a musician. We done a song in a different key the other night in practice, and I made mention it just doesn't sound right.
It's Lord You Reign.
It doesn't. It's not clicking with me. I can't hear it like I need to play. Because, I'd been listening to it for months now and listened to it multiple times that day. A different key
Throw you off.
threw me off. And I don't even deal with the alphabet on the drum set. And it just threw me off. It didn't sound the same. So, say all that to say this. You may have a piano player that's used to Southern gospel style.
Yeah.
And the songs you are doing are like modern UPCI music songs. Vice versa. We may be doing a throwback service, and we're going to do I Got the Victory, I Got the Victory, and somebody's used to playing the modern UPCI music style stuff. It's just, it's a learning curve.
Right.
Especially when you take a bass player from over here, keyboard player from over here, drummer from over here. And we have run into it multiple times with different people who's come to the church to help or felt called to come to the church. Not all churches sing songs the same.
Came up the other day.
Nothing is impossible.
Right.
I have played it several different ways. And it's amazing to me how many different ways that song can be played.
Right.
And nothing wrong with it. That's just the way their church does it, or that's the way our church has done it. And you have to be flexible.
Right.
And it's hard to be flexible because you don't really know what you're walking into. You don't really know what you're facing until you get there and start playing. And a lot of times a good musician can click into that. Okay. They can read how people are playing and kind of read. I would say it takes a good 2 songs to learn the musicians you're playing with.
Yeah. And I will say, if you're a newer musician and you don't understand that feeling of just being able to click after a certain amount of time, you will. It's just a matter of time. We've all been there.
Yeah.
To where it just you don't feel being able to get into that groove, and you just get there over time. So.
And something that's not as prevalent these days, we still do it occasionally, but you'll have an evangelist come in and their wife plays the piano and sings. Now, back in the day, if you were an evangelist, your wife played the piano and would sing.
Because a lot of places you would go, you didn't know what you
were getting into.
Did
so
they have musicians? Who knows?
Back to our last podcast, their wife would kind of set the precedent for that service through whatever song. And he knew what he was preaching. He asked her to, So you may have somebody come up there and they're from up north.
Up north.
And music up north is a lot different than music down here.
Down south.
Down south. So they may come up there and do a song, and it can be a song you played 100 times, but they just do it different. And this is at your church. This isn't at a sectional rally. This is at your church. if you are not flexible, if you're not able to adapt to that, it can be distracting.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
What I usually do, my go-to is go to the basics.
Yeah.
Go as a drummer, go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And if it's one of those 3/4 beat or whatever songs, and it's
don't play
1,
it like
2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You don't do that. You mold that into a 1.
Oh, can we take a bold stance? Can we take a bold stance?
Let's do it.
Okay, the bold stance.
Don't clap on 1 and 3.
If you're a drummer and you have 3/4 time in songs, like most of the time, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Please, whatever you do, the Lord will love you more.
Rebel.
If you don't play and you play it like.
Yep. You can turn those songs into a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry if I've offended anyone over the age of 45.
Let's be honest, they're probably not listening.
We got off subject.
To both of our listeners.
And one of them's my mom.
Yeah.
You bring up an important point, getting back to the basics of, for one, let's say, you're learning a song. It's a newer song. You may somewhat know you've never played it, right? How do you practice to prepare for this service when you're going to play with people you have no idea what they play like? What should that look like? Should you be trying to emulate the record as close as possible? Should you keep your mind as open as possible? What are your thoughts on that? Because I know what mine are.
So, you've never played with them before?
Correct. Never played with them before. I've heard people say you should match everything the recording does and then go in with that mindset. Or you should just only loosely listen to it because you don't know where the other musicians are going to go. So I've heard the two extremes of the argument.
So here would be my argument. You practice the basics, and once they're down pat, you start maybe going towards the full effect of everything. Every lick that drummer hits, you practice that.
There you go.
But the guitar player or piano player may be their first gig. This may be their first time to play, and they're nervous. And
right. And they're not going to do the lead outs.
They're going to go back to the basics.
Solos.
And you're going to be, if you practice just the recording version and you got it down pat, it's going to sound way off. So that
you're going to be the show off guy when everybody else is okay. I see. Yeah, and I see what you're saying.
I'm kind of against playing a song exactly how it's played.
Right.
I feel like there's what they call it, a artistic.
I know what you're talking about.
Or a creative liberty, something like that. So I feel like you should put
creative
freedom. Creative freedom. You should put your own twist. You should have your own style.
Right.
Especially your church band should have its own style of how they play music. And should
100%.
Because even in the apostolic music world, the professional, producers and stuff, there's a certain sound that they're looking for. So if you look at K-Love, every song on there sounds about the same.
Terrible. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's It's that way in country music.
You're not
It's
wrong.
that way in pop music. Yeah. It's that way in Christian music. It's that way in apostolic music. Mm-hmm. Unless you've got somebody that's really like, I don't care about the money. I feel like this song needs to be produced and could help someone, Right. So take that as your opportunity to say, okay, this song could be so much more just by us taking it and kind of molding it into how we do things. Now, there is a problem when that person comes and sings at your church and you're not playing it the way they meant for it to be. Like, I can understand that being, no, I'm not some music artist or whatever, but I've recorded one song, and if somebody was to play that song different, I would notice, and it would throw me off. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Fair.
it's kind of like saying, okay, this is my child, and you give that child a haircut, and it looks hideous. You know? There's the haircut they're used to, and then there's the butcher job you just did.
Yeah.
You know, so I get it, but that's the danger in playing your own style.
Right.
Chances of that happening are slim.
I get that.
There are chances that could happen, but they are slim.
We know when this happened, but we don't have to talk about it. So my thoughts are,
I felt terrible.
My thoughts are always learn everything in the recording. And here's why. Here's my argument. You should learn every lick. You should learn every beat, everything. If you're playing drums, know every accent, know every roll. If you're playing guitar, every lead note. And here's why. It's going to make you better learning all of that.
Yeah.
But learn it with an open mind when you walk into that service with these different musicians you've never played with. Walk in with a mindset, we're probably not going to do it this way, but just in case, I have this.
Right.
Right. You may walk in, they be the best. I've had that happen. I was asked to play at a church in Nashville, and I knew one person. That was my brother, who was on bass. He was the only person that I actually knew how to play with. I walk in and play, and these guys are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I did not learn it as good as I should have. So I was probably the weak one. But so you could have that.
The other side of that is, if you're a new musician, stick to the basics.
Yep.
You know, if you've got it down enough to go and play somewhere else and be flexible, don't try to overdo it.
Right.
But if you're an experienced, seasoned musician that's been playing a lot, that's played at multiple events like that and you're comfortable in that setting, then I would say you need to be learning it lick for lick.
Yeah.
And nowadays, there's some good musicians out there.
That's tough. A lot of the music coming out can be tough.
You don't want to show up and be the problem, basically.
Right. But to that note, if you are a newer musician, you're asked to play this youth service, and let's say you're playing piano, and all you can do at this point is chord. Practice enough where you don't miss the chords, but chord it, because that's going back to the basics. Nobody's going to fault you for doing that because it's the right thing. Yeah.
Same with guitar. However, Jesse was talking about he learned the guitar, the
frets.
Frets, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, learn it enough to play it.
Exactly.
And 9 times out of 10, they're going to understand. And so we'll switch over into that. Playing with a new musician is different from playing with a seasoned musician.
For sure.
So, like, if me and you if you hopped on the keyboard, I hopped on the drums, and Caleb hopped on the bass. Within a matter of seconds, we can be playing any groove.
Yeah.
And can just kind of flow with that.
Yeah. We've done it long enough.
But we have like a umbilical connection. Like, we know.
That sounded weird.
I don't know how to, what do they call it? A fraternal.
Well, for everyone who's listening, we make fun of ourselves all the time because we will be playing a song we've played 100 times and all of a sudden think of something we hadn't done before, not even get the chance to say it in the talkback mic, and all three of us do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Because our brains are connected.
It's crazy. That, or we'll take a modern worship song and I'll put it to the won't we have a time stepped up.
Yeah.
That. So, playing with a new musician. If you're a seasoned musician and you're just watching this to find out what we say wrong, I don't blame you. Enjoy. But
we'll say a lot of funny and wrong stuff.
Have grace for the new ones.
Yeah, 100%.
And don't, how do I say this? Sometimes different personalities, you have to you have to play different. So let's say you have a more timid keyboard player that is not necessarily comfortable being up there, but they know how to play the keyboard and they can play enough to play in a service. I have found myself before trying to play that song exactly like I've always played it.
Yeah.
With all the jump notes and all this and that. And it just sounds like a jumbled up mess. I can go back to the basics, and now I'm on their level.
Right.
And the bass player...
And when we say their level, we're not saying that in a bad way.
It's not a derogatory comment.
No. It's a connection that you have to make.
Right. Now, if they stay on that level, that's between them and God. But with a new musician, like I know me, my feelings have been hurt before.
Yeah.
You know, because I know I was trying as hard as I could. And it wasn't good enough for them, you know, and that never helps when you're a new musician. It's if you're trying to make condescending remarks and derogatory statements against this person just to, I don't know, bully him off the platform so somebody else that you like to play with will be up there. Yeah. That's different. Now, some people you can mess with. Caleb. I love...
To everyone who's listening, he can say this. That's his brother.
I love picking on him. What is it he said the other night? He'll be on the podcast and he can talk trash about me. What was it he said?
Something about Matt is to synth as he is to guitar.
So Matt loves to play anything with synthesizer sounds.
Synthesizer, like organ, brass. I would rather play anything aux keys than piano right now, only because I'm really getting into it and it's fun.
Yeah. So... he said, I am to guitar what Matt is to synth, which means, no. I got this wrong. You had made comment, I wish I could just play synth all the time and not 100%. Even have to touch a piano anymore.
Right.
And Caleb said, you are to piano like I am to bass, or something along those lines, meaning he would rather play guitar over bass. Because he just enjoys guitar more.
And instead, I say, so wait, does that mean I'm bad at synth? Like you're bad at guitar?
So my comment was, Matt plays the synthesizer good, so how is there any relation to you and a guitar? But that's different.
I think we got off somewhere.
If you're out there and you're nice to your brother, what are you doing? No. So Josh, we can pick with Josh.
Yes, absolutely.
Because he practices 3 hours a day.
Exactly.
And he knows what he's doing. He just messed up.
Yeah.
So he knows when we're like, come on, man, why'd you do that? You know, just making little comments like that. And he'll laugh it off and we'll laugh.
For anyone listening, Josh is a bass player that's been playing all of 6 months now, and he's phenomenal because he practices every single day for hours on end.
You mean he practices and he's good? So.
Oh, wait. Should we make a note here?
Don't
do anything to discourage new musicians.
Right.
Like, they're going to mess up. If you're a seasoned musician and you're listening, some of the stuff you can do can hurt their confidence. I mean, I've never had a confidence issue. I've had the opposite problem. So people could cut me down and it would, but you'll have some that are shyer than others. And the derogatory, especially ones that are hurtful on purpose, can impact. I mean, that can make them want to quit playing.
And so me and you can pick at each other.
Yeah.
And I can say the same thing to a guitar player, and it be taken completely out of context in the wrong way. Yeah. Because you know that I don't mean this as, hey, usually I'm just trying to get a laugh.
Right.
We'll be in practice and you'll hit the wrong note or something, and I'll just be like, wow, that sounded good. Or, just
Yeah.
just something like that. Or a lot of times we have self-deprecating humor. I think that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make fun of ourselves.
We'll make fun of ourselves if we hit something wrong. Or I cannot tell you how many times we'll have a jump note or something, and I'll hit the wrong thing, and Matt will look at me, and I'll just be like I have failed you. So just be careful with the new. A lot of times they're younger, so their emotions are on high.
Yeah.
And it helps build their confidence when you're not playing crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
There
back
you
to
go.
what I said, if they don't change, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Then you need to start branching out to give them that chance. Okay, they're comfortable playing this. So I didn't touch a cymbal other than the hi-hat for 6 months to a year.
Really?
Yep. Because
That's why you love the hi-hat so much.
It's another reason I love the hi-hat. I remember being excited the first time I threw a cymbal in. Like, I was like, Daddy, did you hear me hit the cymbal this morning? Yeah, I heard it.
Like, don't worry about the drum roll. It's the cymbal.
Did you hear the cymbal? We won't even get started on drum roll. That was like 4 years later. So. Because I was just so nervous and didn't want to hit the wrong thing and get thrown off, And you may be used to someone like me that's got the hi-hat wide open, hitting every cymbal, every accent note you can possibly think of. It's going to sound different to you.
Yeah.
But be flexible to build their confidence. It's like if you're riding a bicycle and you got somebody with training wheels, they're going to go slower. You can't just take off and leave them. You got to pedal at their pace and kind of be there beside them.
Yeah.
It also helps if, let's say they're new and they mess up. If you're playing simple, they can get back on the wagon and keep, I teach. So part of the exercises I teach in practice is I pull up a song and have them play to it, and I'll stop the song and I'll say, keep playing. They'll sit there and play just the sound of the electric pads being hit. And then I'll start the song back. And of course it's at a completely different timing. And I say, all right, when I start this back, get back on track. And so they'll be playing, song will start, they'll stop and start back where they need to start. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm doing that is power may flicker in the middle of service. There may be, and I'll tell them to drop to halftime.
Yeah.
A lot of songs especially the newer songs, they'll drop to halftime on the bridge or on the verse. Mm-hmm. You got to learn that's a transition that's hard to learn for a drummer because you're used to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just training your brain to break that down into halftime, So if you're playing basic, they can hear the simple parts to get back on track because they're going to get off beat. Yeah. I get off beat. One of my most embarrassing moments, we was playing something like I Fly Away, something of that sort. And somehow I got completely mixed up and was playing right the opposite. Yeah. I was hitting the snare on 1 and 3.
Snare on the 1. So you were drumming to the equivalent of older people clapping on the downbeat?
Yes. So it actually sounded right. No. So I was stuck in it. Like I could not. I stopped and started back and it was the same thing. And I stopped and started back and it was the same thing. And everybody else just kept doing what they were doing. They allowed me the freedom to, okay. And once I finally stopped, figured out what was going on and started back, I was good.
Yeah.
But I messed up. And they could have just stopped playing or started overplaying, and that would have made it even harder for me to get back on track. Right. You know what I'm saying? So have grace for the younger musicians.
I think that's probably a podcast on its own that we need to look into in it, but building a culture of developing your newer musicians. You can do things that can help them, or you can do things that can, you'll ruin it for them. So that's a whole subject in itself. But getting back to the core of it was play the basics whether it be new musicians, different musicians you don't know anything about, play the basics and then go from
Branch
there.
out from there.
Right.
Definitely that first song, keep it basic.
I remember my dad would tell stories. We would have this one evangelist, I don't name names or anything, awesome people though. They would come and preach at our church probably twice a year. His wife was a phenomenal piano player. And I would remember my dad would always play bass with her, and of course they would have drums too, but he would always say, you never know what she was going to do or how she was going to play, because it could be different every time they came. So he would always just, if anything, he called it his fake notes, to where it looks like, I mean, it actually, he is playing, but he's not really playing until he could figure out what was going on and then go from there. That is starting at the basics of basics and then building the music from there.
Yep. That foundation.
Yeah.
So
don't overplay to start on your first practice with brand new people.
Yeah.
Or people you've never played
Like
before.
I said, you're going to run into this. You're going to be asked to play at something.
Yeah.
Special service at the church that they're going to bring in other musicians. I like to bring in different musicians for the men's service just because they're out there and the camaraderie that comes, you know, like I've got a good relationship with musicians from other churches from playing those services, you know, and
those special services.
there's a special bond
band.
when you play in that setting. There's a
100%.
it's a completely it's not just like, hey, shake your hand, we're at service together. It's you're in an emotional, like, I don't know, you're a team. You become one as the music, you know. So I like bringing those different ones from different areas, you know, and making it a team building deal.
100%.
Making friends out of it and stuff.
Playing with new people, different people, all of it's going to make you better as a musician.
Yeah.
It's only going to make you better.
Yeah, and now you're prepared. Let's say you have another service to play with that. Well, now you know how they play. You know their ability. You know what they're capable of, and you can prepare for that.
You may develop feelings of, oh no, they're on play. Oh no, they're playing.
I better keep it simple. I better play basic. And I feel like we're fixing to go through a shift of new musicians.
Yeah.
Because all of the ones that's played the youth rallies over and over and over, they have kids, they're having to work nights, they're having to work this, or
I mentioned
involved in their own church.
I mentioned the last youth rally. I was the oldest person on stage.
Yeah.
So there you go. They're all newer musicians to me.
There's nothing wrong with that, but there needs to be those new musicians.
Right,
there needs because I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that I can do much more with the drum set the way the music's going. Like, it's getting crazy. Every song that's released has like 5 minutes of a drum roll either at the beginning or at the end. And if you're in that setting where you're playing every lick, I'll just tell you, I'm not good at the drum rolls. I just can't do it. My mind will not do it. So we need new musicians that started out listening to, like, they grew up with that to take it further to whatever it's going to be in 10 years, you know. So
100%. Well, it goes back to, man, like I said, we need to do a whole episode on it, but building a culture of developing musicians in your church. And I mean, I will say this, I think this is an entire episode in itself too. For all of our seasoned musicians that are listening, if you're not actively teaching someone right now, find someone to teach. And even if you're starting from scratch with somebody, you can only meet with them once every 2 weeks, whatever. Developing someone is not only just rewarding, building the kingdom of God, but it also makes you better. Teaching, having a student, having a disciple makes you a better human being, but it makes you a better musician.
Yep. It's like having a kid and they're off the training wheels now, and like that first couple pedals, you see them up there playing, and you're like, yeah, I did that. You know, they're doing that because I took my time and sacrificed it, and now they can do that. Mm-hmm. Like they've stuck with it, they've practiced, and now they're at that level.
Yeah.
You know?
That's how, I mean, I won't brag. Josh is phenomenal, but I gave him his start with the bass guitar, and it feels awesome that he's playing, 2 or 3 times a month now?
Yeah.
And nailing it, crushing it. It feels good to me that he's doing that.
I'll also say there was a point in my life where I saw that as a threat.
It can be.
Honestly.
It can be viewed. It shouldn't be, but it can be viewed that way.
I saw it as a threat. I thought, they're going to get up here and I'll never play the drums. Now I'm like, okay. Why don't we all just play drums and then I can. So I do enjoy playing. Like I've said many times, but everybody needs the service experience along with
100%.
You know, being out in the altars, praying with people, getting prayed for, you know, just especially if you're called to other ministries, building those ministries.
Yeah.
You need that just like you need to practice with playing the drums. No, you're not practicing praying with people, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the more fluent you are. And
you only get good flowing in the spirit if you practice flow. I mean, it's not practice, but it is if you do it.
Yep. So the more the merrier. But there was a time I had just gotten to where I was comfortable enough to enjoy playing, and there were others that were wanting to play, and I was like, I'm going to take my drum stool away. It's going to be all them, you know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Like it was, looking back, I wish I would have had a better spirit about it. And I learned from that. And so now when someone says, hey, can you teach me the drums? Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to waste my time. So if you don't want to practice, I'm not being involved.
That's one thing I've struggled with too. The church I grew up in, there was one of each musician. They played every service all the time. That, for lack of better terms, they owned that job.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you can get yourself in a serious problem as a church because you build people with a mindset, that's mine, no one else can do it.
Mm-hmm.
We all have one goal, and that's
Let's say you get hit by a car tomorrow. Who's going to be the piano player? Who's going to take that spot? And
our goal should be growing the kingdom of God.
Yep.
If you own this job and you suddenly are incapacitated for 2 weeks, guess what? You're not helping the kingdom of God in that case. So you don't own the music, the instrument that, I mean, you might, if it's those are your drums. You don't own your role.
Right.
It belongs to God.
And you're blessed more when you can let that go.
Absolutely.
And look, some people struggle with some things. You may not struggle with that. You know, there may be others that don't struggle with that. It's just something I struggled with. I had finally found something that I felt useful, like I was actually doing something, and I felt threatened by the fact that someone else would do it. Mm-hmm. You know, like I'd finally reached that point. You know, as a teenager, if your intentions are right, you're looking for a way to serve and to be a part of it and be a part of service and you don't want to just sit on the pew.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd finally gotten to that point, and I had the wrong attitude about it, but the Lord worked with me, and I've got a completely different attitude now.
Yeah.
I mean,
our church does that incredibly well, of that mindset of train yourself out of a job. And it should be that way. For everyone to listen, it should be that way. You don't own the role that you have. It's given to you by God. And to be a good steward of it, you're going to train other people.
The story of the talents.
Exactly. The guy that buried his, kept it to himself, he was the unwise one.
Yep.
Not the one that grew it.
Yep. If God gives you the ability to play the drums and someone says, I want to play the drums. Well, why do you want to play? I would like to play in service.
No,
why would you want to play?
That's my job.
Yeah, I'm going to. you can try to learn them on your own, but don't expect any help from me. You know?
Right.
It's just crazy because you didn't give yourself that talent in the first place.
Yeah.
Or that gift or that whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think which this episode may end up being a little shorter, but to get back to that, your music director for your section calls you for the youth service. Your mind may go to 100 different places. I'm playing with these people, whatever. It goes back to the main goal, which is worship, building the kingdom of God. And if everyone keeps that mindset, the right stuff will happen.
Yeah. And you don't want to be the one on the team that's got the wrong intentions.
Right.
That throws everything off. And if you find out that someone's playing and y'all have bridges that have been burnt and issues going on, you need to be settling them or asking them to find somebody else to play.
Yeah.
Because that can crush
That's biblical.
a move of God
That is biblical.
immediately.
What does the Bible say? You come to the altar to bring your gift and you have aught against your brother.
Yeah.
You don't start praying at the altar. You go find your brother.
I have watched
Take care of the
happen.
issue first.
Yep, I have watched it happen where they was yan back and forth, and they get up there to sing, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And here we are. We've prepared. We've practiced. We've gotten comfortable with, okay, this is our song. We can play music. Team's got it down pat. And then the singers have got aught against each other, or two of the guitar playing bass players got problems or whatever. It quenches the spirit immediately. Like, don't even try. I mean, do your part, but
Yeah.
that the Lord's not going to bless that, So, and don't be petty.
Don't be petty.
Don't be petty.
No, at the end of the day, if you're playing with somebody that you're not crazy about playing with, the main thing's still the main thing.
Yeah. Be the bigger man.
Or lady.
Or lady.
But then bigger sounds bad.
Be the better man.
Be the
or
better.
lady.
Be the better.
Be the better lady.
But
so these night podcasts have a different vibe.
Do they?
Yeah. Like I'm almost asleep.
For everyone listening, I fell asleep accidentally before starting this, and I was groggy to begin with. Now I'm wired, and I feel like I could just talk for another 4 hours straight. But I know I got work tomorrow, so
well, see,
I can't.
My thing is, in the morning, I'll wake up, and I know after this, I'm starting my day.
Mm.
Here, I know after this, I'm going home and going to bed. And so my mind is uncontrollably preparing for that.
So for all two of our listeners, comment which y'all like better, the morning or the evening.
You can tell. I'm sure you can.
There's a difference.
And also, since we're to this point, we're 5 episodes in, get with us. If you know us personally, shoot us a text, walk up and ask us. We'll have an email posted.
We are the least famous people on the planet.
Yeah. And we're proud of it. Post a YouTube comment. I don't know. That's where this is going to be posted, is YouTube. So
Don't make it nasty, though. Our feelings will get hurt.
Yeah, I'm very emotional and I have very thin skin. So topics that you would like, stuff you're wondering about, because it's been a while since we started playing music. So there's stuff that we have missed. And we're also going to have like some upbeat, funny stuff eventually too.
Just when we have Caleb on.
If you're looking for comedy there, you're desperate. Well, I don't know. This is a video podcast, so
there you go.
We could just put the camera on here.
You could just point the camera at his face.
If we could get the crew in here,
that's going to be good.
Yeah. If we can ever get him back from Panama, and
maybe the natives didn't take
something
him.
With his passport is messed up, so I'm just kidding.
Are you serious?
No, I'm just joking. He'll be back. Eventually.
But everyone,
This is just mellowed out.
there you go. It's because it's almost midnight.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do this. I'm not saying I'm too old, but my body is not equipped.
I'm older than you.
By age, yes.
Not by feeling.
You're not 300 pounds and
So
bones aching.
maybe we need to. Any funny music stories we need to share before we shut her down? Okay, I'll give one.
Give one. Let me think.
You talked about earlier in this podcast, some churches you may have to bring drums into. I've mentioned me and my dad have went to different churches, played Southern gospel music for years. So there was this one church we went to every single year. I think they're Methodist, super nice people, some of the nicest people. They were Methacostal. If that's the thing. They were Methodist, but they were like Holy Ghost filled Methodist, but they didn't believe everything. Religion aside, anyway. So they didn't have drums. All they had was a piano, and I think they had a bass, and they sung congregationals and gorgeous sounding. Everybody in the entire sanctuary knew the songs by heart. They would sing all the different flows of the hymnals and stuff. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. But their stage looked like this. It was this little tiny, probably 2 or 3 foot wide section, and then every bit of it was a choir loft. So it's this.
Oh, yeah.
Working its way up, right? We brought drums in. Have you ever tried playing drums on stairs?
No, you did.
Yes. You would sit on a stair, extend the legs of the bass drum as far down as they'll go, so it's propped up, and it's probably a foot off the next stair by this point. You're kicking almost in the air, and then you just kind of mount them front, because you couldn't fit it in the little tiny space, because there's a grand piano and then the pulpit. So there's no space for drums. And so every year we would set drums up on stairs.
Wow.
It was entertaining. It was very fun. That's where electric drums saved our lives when we got those. Because they're easier.
Did they save your life, though?
No, not at all. But they less floor space. Less space.
Yeah, and bus space and all that, too.
So I have played drums on stairs.
On a staircase.
On a staircase. 100%.
Wow. It's kind of funny. It's kind of the same situation, not really. They did a community-wide choir. So we brought all denominations together, and we brought a drum set in.
Okay.
And you would have thought we walked in with chainsaws or something. And
face paint and
the
masks and everything. What are these people doing?
The funny part of the story was just the looks that we got.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everybody loved it.
Yeah.
It went great, but it was an interesting situation. Playing drums to like a pipe organ style piano, just like a grand piano type thing. It was different. But I know I've got funny stories that's happened.
I caught you off guard.
I mean, there's been times.
It's only because we haven't talked long
There
enough,
have been times where a stick would break in the middle of a song and it flies off and hits a singer or hits the bass or whatever. But the drum shield kind of takes
limits
care of that
the
now.
Projectiles.
Yeah. I'm no longer a cage-free drummer.
Cage-free.
Yeah.
Well, to everyone who listens, thank y'all so much.
Big changes coming to the sanctuary, though.
Yes. Can we say that?
Yeah. I mean, by the time this is out, it's going to be like 4 months.
4 months later, and all 4 people have listened.
I'm speaking to future Cody. You don't know what this looks like yet, but I think it's going to blow your mind.
I think it's going to be awesome. The entire sanctuary is being repainted, and the back wall of the stage where the instruments are is going to be black.
Yeah.
To make it pop.
Like this.
And what I love about it, it will hide all the cables. It will hide the nastiness.
That. Yeah.
So it just looks cleaner from a music perspective. See, these singers with the wireless microphones, they don't have to worry about that when you have drums that you need 8 microphones, which means 8 microphone cables, and then a snake that runs to the stage box. Anything you can use to hide cables
Helps.
to your advantage.
So I do have a funny story,
Okay.
but I'm going to wait for the other ones to get here
Wait
to
for the
tell
next
it.
episode.
Yeah, because it has to do with our band.
Okay. Got it.
So
Got it. Well, thank y'all so much for listening. We greatly appreciate it. Again, this has been Talkback Corner. As Pastor Lambert always says, may you pour out before the Lord in all that you do, your time, your effort, and yes, your music. And we pray you have an amazing service on Sunday.